The meteorologist Tim Root with your KLEK 102.5 forecast. A weather front just inching its way towards us will give us clouds, showers, and thunderstorms today, tonight, and Tuesday. About a 40-50% during the day, 30% at night. And through Tuesday, there could be some isolated severe thunderstorms. You'll be in the mid to upper 80s today and tomorrow, and probably close to 70 overnight. More showers and thunderstorms expected Wednesday. Jonesboro, that's your KLEK 102.5 FM weather.
From Feature Story News in London, I'm Ollie Barrett. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro's won another 6-year term in office in an election boycotted by the opposition. The public inquiry into the Grenfell Tower disasters opened in London with statements from relatives of victims. 10 deaths due to the Nipah virus, a disease transmitted by fruit bats and pigs, have occurred in South India, and an immunisation programme is being started by health workers in Democratic Republic of Congo to try and stop the spread of Ebola.
It's 10:01.
Community Conversations is brought to you by Arkansas Early Learning, offering no-cost childcare in Jonesboro and Northeast Arkansas. Applications at arearlylearning.org.
Arkansas Early Learning is a nonprofit organization.
KLEK LP Jonesboro, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council. It's now time for Community Conversations, a program focusing on the people working to make the Jonesboro community a better place, while offering viewpoints from all sides of the issues. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, or our underwriters or sponsors.
KLEK 102.5 FM, good morning to you. This is a very special edition of Community Conversations. Kato Wonder is in the studio with you, and today we are joined by Mr. Jared Henderson. He is the Democratic candidate for Arkansas governor, and he asked to come on to the program today, and we're certainly happy to have him in the studio. Once again, let me give the disclaimer. KLEK and the Voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council does not endorse nor support any candidate for office, nor was any compensation provided for this interview. This interview is provided for informational purposes only, but we do encourage you to exercise your right to vote. So, Jared, can I call you Jared?
Absolutely.
So, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's great to be with you. Thanks for having me on.
All right, so let's go ahead and just kind of give an introduction about yourself. Tell the listeners who you are.
Yeah, you bet. So I was born in Little Rock about 40 years ago. I grew up in Northwest Arkansas and went to public schools up there, K through 12, and I'm a graduate of the University of Arkansas. Spent the first 10 years of my career working for NASA for a little bit, and then the private sector and business. And most of the last decade, I've been in public education, working in the Delta in South Arkansas.
Okay. So you actually work for NASA. Did you get to ride the space shuttle?
I wish. No. Got to see one take off once, but didn't get to go up myself.
All right. So let's talk about what made you decide to run for Arkansas governor.
Yeah. Well, as you mentioned, I've been raised by this state. I'm a product of this state. So is my family, going back generations. And I think that we have an enormous amount of potential in this state. We've got some communities in some parts of the state that are thriving, but I think that we have an opportunity to do a lot more. I've worked in dozens of communities around the state, particularly in eastern and southern Arkansas the last 6 years, and in countless classrooms on main streets around the state. I just think there's an opportunity for more citizens to share in our prosperity and to realize their full potential.
All right, so I'm looking on your website, which is jaredforarkansas.com. Again, that website is jaredforarkansas.com, and you have some core issues in which you care about. In fact, there are 4 issues that are highlighted. So we're going to go through each one and kind of talk about your positions on those issues. The first is healthcare, and I'm just going to kind of quickly read the blurb on your website. It says, Arkansas works as bipartisan legislation that provides private health insurance to nearly 300,000 Arkansans. This legislation also provides critical funding that keeps hospital doors open, particularly in our rural communities. Jared wants to ensure that we protect this legislation and its funding so Arkansans can continue to receive the care they need, and we can finally focus on one of the most pressing issues in healthcare today, the skyrocketing cost of insurance premiums. So if you are elected governor, what will you do to either protect, preserve, or to make sure that Arkansans are covered? Just kind of give your thoughts on healthcare.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, our state has made some smart decisions in the last 10 years to embrace the good parts of the Affordable Health Care Act. We've expanded coverage to a lot of people, and as a result, we have been able to keep many of our hospitals open in our rural communities. Some other states that have acted differently have seen far worse results. Unfortunately, we're still having an annual debate in this state on that, and I think it's important to send a message through our elections this fall that says, no, we want to keep the progress we made, and we want to move on to the next challenge, which is making healthcare more affordable and making insurance premiums lower for the people that have got it.
Okay, so why is it that you think there are such opposition to Arkansas Works? One would think that everyone should have some kind of health care that that can be afforded or is available to them, because healthcare is one of those things that affects everybody. It doesn't discriminate against anyone by any type of demographic.
Yeah, well, you're raising such an important question, and I think to answer it, you have to tie this back to the larger dynamic we're in this country. Our politics, as everyone knows, has gotten really polarized in the last several years. And when I talk to voters around the state, whether they're Democrats, Independents, Republicans, or whatever, they're pretty sick and tired of it, and they want people to come together and actually work and act on the vast common ground that we have. And I think in healthcare, when we're talking about Arkansas Works, there are a lot of folks that want to tie it to national healthcare and national policy. I'm getting in this race because all my life, Arkansans have shown to me over and over again, not just in politics, but in any arena, that we can sit down and look each other in the eye, even if we're in different political parties, even if we disagree on some things, and figure out how to move forward. And I think that we need to do that here as well.
And I agree that's absolutely important, no matter it's a Democrat or a Republican that gets elected. It's important that all sides are able to come together and find the best solution to a problem. There may be disagreements on how to get there, but it should be the goal of everyone to solve the problems and not just score political points. And that goes on both sides.
Right. Well, particularly in an issue like this that is literally life and death for a lot of people. It's obvious how healthcare is just central to the well-being of individuals and entire families, and we need to treat it accordingly.
All right, we are speaking with Jared Henderson, Democratic candidate for governor of Arkansas. If you have a question for Mr. Henderson, you can give us a call at 870-277-1080, or you can leave your questions and comments on our Facebook Live feed. Our next issue that I see on your website is education. And on here you says, Arkansas teachers are often unheard, undervalued, and underpaid. This campaign has a central goal on education. In 10 years, Arkansas should be the best state in the country to be a public school teacher. There's been a 56% drop in the number of people entering the teaching profession since 2009. For our state to have the best and brightest future, we have to attract the best and the brightest to the teaching profession and celebrate and retain our talented educators who are already in it. We need to make sure we have a great human being in every classroom who has the training and resources they deserve, and we need to get out of their way. If we do that, we have a fighting shot at building an excellent Arkansas education system that works for every kid. If we don't achieve that, it's going to be hard to get there. So, Mr. Henderson, just kind of talk more on your stance of healthcare. It's not healthcare, excuse me, education.
Right. Well, I appreciate you just airing what's on my website. I think that in education, this is obviously something that aspiring politicians and candidates talk about all the time, but I think miss the point a lot of times when we're talking about education and fail to realize that at the heart of all of it, at the heart of providing opportunity for every one of our kids, is making sure that they've got a great teacher and that teacher has what they need to succeed. If we can get that right, we've got a fighting shot. And if we don't, technology won't save us. We can build great, wonderful facilities, and it won't matter if we don't get to the heart of this. And over the last 10 or 20 years, from Washington to Little Rock on down, we've done a lot of things that have made it harder to be an educator and made it less attractive to stay or enter the profession. And we've got to turn that around and make it attractive again to be a member of what I would argue is one of our hardest and definitely one of our most important professions.
Well, as a former teacher, I can definitely attest to how hard it is. We got a couple Facebook shout-outs. Shout out to Quabila Jones. Appreciate you for checking in. And Marsha Phillips gives a thumbs up. Now, getting back to the education, I want to ask maybe kind of an interesting or a strange question, but I'll ask anyway. There are some people who feel like the public school is failing, not because of low test scores, but they feel that public education is indoctrinating people according to a certain agenda, and thus they feel that just throw the whole thing away because all they're doing is teaching people to think a certain way. When you hear that, what do you think?
Yeah, well, it's an important debate, but in my experience, I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of teachers over the last decade, probably thousands. And what I find is that if you recruit great people into the profession, if you give them what they need and you give them the trust and the freedom, 9 out of 10 educators, they want the best for their children. And that's not teaching them what to think. That's equipping them so that they can think critically no matter what life throws at them. It's taking and helping them not decide what they think about an issue, but say, how do I analyze it from all angles? And I think that that's just critical for our children today. We want kids that can make it to go to and through college. We want kids that have these dreams to get good, well-paying technical vocational jobs. But we've also got to recognize that in these times that we're living in, we've got to prepare our kids to compete for jobs in 10, 20 years that don't even exist yet. And so training them to be critical thinkers is just, it's essential to not just to the children's future, but the future of our state and the future of our country. And
continuing on education, one of the things that is affecting the education system in Arkansas is, especially in your poor areas such as the Delta, you have, and I'll give my hometown of Helena and West Helena as an example, you have the public school and then you have a charter school that has popped up. And some parents elect to pull their kids out of the public school and enter them into the charter school, which causes the enrollment to go out in the public school, and they lose funding and they can experience some difficulty operating. So if you are elected governor, what will you do to make sure that all districts, whether public or charter, have the resources that they need to produce the best students possible?
Yeah, well, it's such an important question. I mean, I think that resources are just critical, whether we're talking about making the teaching profession more attractive or we're just making sure that our kids have the absolute basics they need beyond that, such as books and other materials. I think that with respect to charter schools and all this, we need to be honest with ourselves where we do have districts in which charter schools are pulling away middle class affluent kids and leaving the district with fewer resources to educate kids who have every bit as much potential but who need more from their school system. I think there are some examples though, like the example that you raised in Helena, where you've had a charter school experience that has that exists purposefully to serve the highest need kids, and they've helped everyone recognize that even children that are growing up in poverty or have the large barriers in front of them can still achieve at the absolute highest levels if they're given a fair shot. And so we want to make sure that we continue to support examples that do that. And by the way, it's interesting, the public schools in Helena, the district schools, they've risen to that challenge in some really inspiring ways. I think almost every senior graduating from the Helena West Helena schools this year,
it was 100%.
Got accepted into college. That's just absolutely extraordinary.
And they're also building a new high school as well. But
yes, they are.
We're gonna go on to our next issue on the website, which is small business, and it says here, Arkansas is home to some of the most successful businesses in the world. We have proven that when given the opportunity, we are world-class innovators and job creators. We see this in select parts of northwest and central Arkansas, and we should celebrate it. At the same time, we must work to unleash growth in the rest of the state. Our rural communities are full with smart and innovative people who have the vision and courage to step up and build a new business in the local economy. What they usually don't have is the money to get started, access to health insurance while the family takes the risk, and the first few hours of basic business training that will give them a fighting shot as they act on their dreams. These are solvable problems, and if we can come together to address them, we will empower countless Arkansans to create new and better jobs across the state. And I can speak from experience because it was difficult, even as a nonprofit starting this radio station. So go ahead and address that, and then I'm going to go to Facebook and we got a comment on there. So quickly kind of touch on business.
You bet. Well, at the heart of my ideas on business is that I believe that we have talented people everywhere in this state, and I want to make sure that they have what they need so that they can help build their communities from the bottom up. I don't think that the best plans come from the top down or come from Little Rock to the communities. I think that our job in Little Rock, my job as a governor, would be to make sure that every family, every entrepreneur has the basics so that with hard work they can rise and achieve their dreams. And I have seen, the things that I say on my website about the talent that people have, how universal that talent is around the state. I've seen that firsthand in dozens of communities. And there are very simple things that we could do that could allow that talent to have its full impact. I think that the mistake that we made as a state is, and this goes back for years, but we've focused almost all of our energy on recruiting big business in from outside. And I'm fine with that. I think that's a great thing for the handful of communities that benefit from it. But we need a strategy that helps every community, that helps all of our counties, not just a handful.
All right. We are once again speaking with Mr. Jared Henderson, Democratic candidate for Arkansas governor. Election day is tomorrow. The last day for early voting is today. If you want to vote on the Democratic side, then please request the Democratic ballot so that you can vote for the candidate of your choice. Going to our Facebook, Kubila says, have you discussed the standardized testing that is in place, and how does it not serve as true representation on the intelligence of the students in schools as a whole?
Yep. Well, we're almost 2 decades now into, pretty aggressive standardized testing for our students. And while it's done a few good things, I think overall, as your questioner indicates, it's really added some huge burdens onto our teachers and on our kids. I think that it's helpful to have a little bit of small testing to provide some sort of objective measure about how every single one of our kids are doing. But when you talk to teachers and you talk to kids, they're just spending a huge chunk of the year taking these tests, administering these tests, and it's also crowding out other critical things that students need to be well-rounded, good, happy human beings, like the arts, for instance, and we need to do something about that.
All right, so definitely well said, because as a former teacher, I can definitely attest to how, comparing when I was a student to becoming a teacher when everything was about the test.
Right.
Going back to your website, jaredforarkansas.com, the last issue that you highlight is ending the circle of poverty. And on here you say, Arkansas has one of the highest rates of childhood poverty in the U.S. One of the main reasons is because Arkansas has one of the highest rates of teen pregnancy, and few folks in government have the courage to talk about it. Jared believes we must take this head on. Other states have taken measures to reduce teen pregnancy rates dramatically in a matter of a few years, whether it's through education, health care, or just begin to have a conversation between generations. Jared believes we must bring community leaders together in each county and address this issue in a way that is consistent with our local values. So kind of expound on that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, this is something that's near and dear to my heart for a lot of reasons. I was born to an unmarried teenage mother about 40 years ago, and she gave me up for adoption in the first week of my life, and it really changed everything for me right out of the gate. But, more recently, working in education, I just met entirely too many 15, 16-year-old kids who are parents or about to become parents themselves. And they're wonderful, wonderful children that deserve every bit of love and support we can give them. At the same time, they're going to have to work extra hard. They're going to have a tremendous amount of support to complete their education and realize their full potential. They can do it, but it's going to take everything that we've got to support them with. I believe that we owe it to our young people to equip them with the knowledge and the resources that they need so that they can complete their education and they can grow up, before they take on what I think is life's hardest job. My wife and I became parents 18 months ago, and I'm not ashamed to say we've got just about every advantage you could want going into parenthood, and it's still really hard.
Well, I'm not a parent, but I can only imagine.
Yeah. Well, and I think if we can take this on and if we can achieve what other states have, we could find ourselves in 5 or 10 years with thousands and thousands of our young people who have had the opportunity to complete their education, who have had the opportunity to grow up a little bit more, and who are better positioned to raise the kids that they're blessed to have. And, if we can achieve that, who knows what these young people will achieve for themselves, for their communities, and for our state. I really think there are a few things more important to me than this part of our platform.
And I definitely agree that we do need to look out for our youth, because the youth are our future.
Absolutely.
Once again, we are speaking with Mr. Jared Henderson, Democratic candidate for Arkansas governor. The election day for the primary is tomorrow. Now, Mr. Henderson, if you are victorious in the primary, then obviously up next is the general election. Not wanting to overlook. Well, hold on, let me go back to the comments. So, Kubia says, this is a great topic. I used to volunteer with a program that was implemented in junior high school that discussed teen pregnancy. I would love to see more programs, seminars, or nonprofit agency geared toward education and reducing statistics.
All right, good.
All right, so getting back to what I was saying, if you are victorious in the primary, what can we expect for you going into the general election? Because the governor's race obviously is an important race, and it's definitely going to be a contrast between whoever is the Democratic candidate versus whoever is the Republican candidate. So just kind of give some quick thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, first, as you said, we got to win tomorrow night, and we're not taking anything for granted. So we're here working hard today. We're going to continue to do that tomorrow and until the last ballot's cast tomorrow evening. But if we are chosen by the voters to move on, we're going to draw a strong but respectful contrast with Governor Hutchinson's record, not just as governor, but across the 32 years that he's been in politics. One of the great things about Arkansas is most people here, Republican and Democrat, can still look each other in the eye and have respectful debates, but we are going to have a debate, and when it needs to be fierce, it will be. I think that we have some very different ideas on how the tax burden is distributed. We have some very different ideas on how jobs are created. We have some very different ideas on how healthcare is distributed and how we pay for it. And I'm really excited to have that debate with the governor.
Of course, there's also Mrs. Morgan as well, who could be the Republican nominee. So you could have a debate with her.
That's true. That debate might even be more interesting in some ways if we have that one.
Well, look, Mr. Henderson, we definitely thank you for stopping by. I wish we could have did the whole hour. I know you probably got another engagement to go to very shortly.
It's a privilege to be with you. I'm enjoying it. Thank you.
And if you are victorious, then we would love to bring you back for an entire hour.
I'll take you up on that. That would be fantastic.
To talk more about the issues, because there's so many issues in which we could talk about. So, we got 3 minutes left. So, any issues that you care about, that you feel passionate about, that you want to share your position with the listeners?
Sure. Well, I would just encourage everyone. I suspect that your listeners are very engaged citizens and or have voted or are going to vote. But I would encourage them to do everything they can. Bring 5 people with you to the polls. Get 10 more people to pay attention. There is a new generation of people, I think, across the political spectrum that are entering this year, and voters are going to have some fresh choices. They really are, up and down the ballot. The key is, are they going to take a few minutes to inform themselves about their choices and to go make a good one? And I would just ask us all to do our part to make sure as many people as possible participate in our democracy and have their voice be heard.
All right. We certainly thank you, Mr. Henderson, for stopping by.
Thank you.
Today is the last day of early voting. So, again, we're not going to endorse or support any candidate or tell you who to vote for, but we definitely encourage you to vote for whichever candidate you feel best represents you. Not just today or tomorrow, which is election day, but for the general election as well. Remember, they say, no vote, no voice. All votes matter. And these people make decisions for you that affect you. Don't ever think that this happens in a vacuum, that if I don't vote it doesn't matter, because it does, because those decisions are going to affect you, and they're definitely going to affect your pocketbook if they don't affect anything else. So once again, we strongly encourage you to exercise your right to vote. We got a final Facebook shout out, I believe, from Tanita Boyd Wathel, who says, "Good morning, KLEK." Now, I believe you got a couple personal appearances in Jonesboro. So if someone wants to meet you in person today and they happen to be in Jonesboro, where can they meet you at?
Well, we're gonna just try to get to places where a lot of people are already. I think we're still deciding this afternoon exactly where we're gonna be, but we're gonna be where a lot of folks are, whether it's places they shop or places they eat. So we'll go out and find people on our own, but we hope to shake as many hands as we can and earn people's support.
And the website is jaredforarkansas.com. That's jaredforarkansas.com. Looking at his business card, you can email him at jaredforarkansas.com. Is it okay to give out this phone number? I know this is your personal number, not. So what?
The email is the best way.
The email,
that'll get to us quickest.
And of course, social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Jared4GOV. May God bless and keep each and every one of you. You guys have a great day. This is Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
Thank you for listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM, a program focusing on the people working to make the Jonesboro community a better place while offering viewpoints from all sides of the issues. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, or our underwriters or sponsors.